share something on Instagram, every time you buy something on Amazon, every time you search in Google, even every time you swipe right on Tinder, valuable data is generated that reveals a little more about who you are, your habits, your needs, and your desires. And that information can be used to enhance your online experiences. It can be used to improve the products and services that you have access to. It can even be used to predict what you might do next, like what you might buy next or watch next, even who you might date next. So I've spent the last 15 years using data, both big and small, to understand people, and in particular how they engage with technology. And today I'd like to share a much more human side to data science. I'd like to show you that data is fundamentally about people and their behaviors. I'd like us to go all the way back to 2006. I was doing a PhD in UCD, and I was given a really unique opportunity to work with a European mobile operator and to analyze a large-scale data set to understand how people searched and browsed the web from their mobile phones at that time. This was going to be the largest data set I'd ever worked with. 300 million URLs, 6 million search queries, all generated by 2.6 million people over 1 week in early 2006. Now you have to remember that this is pre-iPhone. This was as smart as a smartphone was in 2006. Did anyone have one of these phones? Yeah? And the primary means of accessing online content from your phone was to go through your mobile operator's portal. Do you remember those? So you would kind of click, and you'd wait a long time, and you'd scroll, and you eventually would find what you're looking for. But I really wanted to understand what types of information did these early adopters of mobile search look for online, and the reason is because early adopters of any technology tend to be indicative of what we might expect from people in the not-so-distant future, from mainstream users. So before I dive into what I found, can I see a show of hands? How many people in this room searched or browsed the web from their mobile phone in Europe in 2006? Okay, that's actually a decent amount of people. So here's what I found. I classified a sample of the 6 million search queries into one of 16 topics. And for the purposes of this talk, and in the interest of time, I'm just going to highlight the top 5. So in 5th place, it's multimedia. So these are queries like ringtones and free wallpaper. In 4th place, it's entertainment. So these are things like cinema and famous people like Britney Spears. In 3rd place, it's search and finding things. So these are actually queries for other search engines like AOL and MSN. And then we find email, messaging, and chat. So these are queries like Hotmail and MSN Messenger. Can anyone guess what the most popular type of information people searched for on their phone back in Europe in 2006? Anyone? Adult-related content. Porn, free porn, sex stories. 61% of all the queries. I found that fascinating. Adult-related content. If you think about all that effort and all that scrolling and all that pixelation, the content of image here would have likely been images, and yet the image quality would have been so poor. But you see, data is fundamentally about people and their behaviors, and what this analysis highlights is that people use their phones in very different ways. So your mobile phone is highly personal. If I asked anyone in this room if I could borrow your phone, I'd likely hear tiny gasps of horror, and then you'd probably say no, because your entire life is on your phone. Your very private and intimate life is on your phone, so all of your messages with loved ones and your photographs from your cherished memories and all of your searches and all of the web pages that you visit. It's very likely that early adopters of mobile search felt comfortable querying for these quite discrete things on this very personal and discrete device. Okay, next I want us to go fast forward. 2013, mobile phones had evolved to these beautiful devices, and apps like WhatsApp and Facebook had become constant companions to almost 1 billion of us. We were using them to connect and communicate with friends and family across the world, wherever and whenever we wanted. And just to make sure that we didn't miss anything important, these apps started to use proactive push-based notifications to alert us of any messages and events of interest, even when we weren't actively using our phone. So they'd make sounds and they'd vibrate, they'd show us icons and badges. Now, at the time of this analysis, WhatsApp was sending more than 50 billion messages per day, and Facebook had more people connected via their phones than via their desktop. So that's a huge potential volume of notifications bombarding us and interrupting us. And my colleagues and I at Telefonica Research, we wanted to understand more. How do people actually deal with notifications? How many do they get, and what does that actually tell us about them? So in this case, we didn't actually have a data set to deal with, so we created our own. We built a mobile logging app, and it ran in the background of a person's phone, and it tracked all of the notifications that you received. It would track the name of the notification, the time the notification was received, and the time between receiving the notification and you actually viewing it for the first time or attending to it. And then we enlisted a group of 15 people. We installed the software on their phone for 2 weeks, and we tracked all of their notifications. And yes, we paid them. And after doing some cleaning, what we found is 7,000 mobile notifications over the 2-week period. Over half of these actually came from messaging apps. So these are things like WhatsApp and SMS. And we found that each person received an average number of 65 notifications per day. That's 1 every 22 minutes. That's a lot. Things got really interesting, though, when we looked at how people actually viewed or reacted or attended to those notifications. We found that, on average, people attended to messaging notifications the quickest, 3.5 minutes on the weekend. That's quick. But if you think about messaging apps like WhatsApp, they tend to be used to communicate with loved ones and friends and family, and therefore there's likely either a desire to or even an expectation to respond quite quickly. Do we have any WhatsApp users in the room? Like a lot of people. Okay. How do you feel about the 2 blue ticks? For those of you who don't know, the 2 blue ticks. So the 2 blue ticks are basically, they mean that the person not only received your message, they read your message. So now we know for sure when our loved ones are ignoring us, and they know for sure when we're ignoring them. So it's likely that these interfaces actually fueled that expectation of us responding quite quickly. The really interesting things were discovered when we looked at the effect of ring mode, or the ringer mode on your phone. So typically phones come with 3 ring modes. There's a normal mode where your phone will actually make sound and it will vibrate when a new message arrives. Then there's vibrate mode where the sound is off but your phone still vibrates when new messages or notifications land. And then there's silent mode when there's neither. No sounds, no vibrations, and I'm one of the guilty people who keep my phone permanently in silent mode. So what we found is that notifications received in vibration mode were viewed significantly faster than notifications received when the phone was in silent mode or in normal mode. And the really interesting thing, having the phone in silent mode did not lead to any slower response times. So what that means is that when people have their phone in silent mode, they're actually proactively checking it just in case they received anything. Does that resonate with anyone here? I know I do this. I do it all the time. I have my phone in silent mode, and yet I check every 2 minutes. Did they retweet that tweet? Did they like that Instagram post? Did he message about that second date? You see, data is fundamentally about people and their behaviors, and what this analysis highlights is just how connected, reliant, and borderline addicted some of us have become to our phones. Okay. Last data story to share with you all, and this time I want us to move to more recent times, 2016, and I'd like to talk about an analysis from Intercom, where I'm currently based. So Intercom is a messaging platform for businesses to communicate with their customers. And at Intercom, our mission is to make internet business personal. So we're always looking for new ways that will enable us to help our customers, who are businesses, communicate in fun and personal ways with their customers, who we call consumers. And one such way is with emoji. So we love emoji in Intercom, so much so that a couple of years ago we added in the ability for businesses to actually add emoji into their conversations with their end users. And why? Well, anyone who's ever been on a date will know that there's a lot more to a conversation than just spoken words. There is our body language and our tone and our gestures, our voice, and that all add additional signals, additional layers of meaning. And messaging apps have morphed to go beyond simple text-based chat interfaces. They're now supporting a range of emoji. Any emoji users in the room? Yeah, like it's a phenomenon that's really taken over the world, because emojis allow us to add that additional layer of meaning and signals. They add a sense of fun and humanity and personality. So we wanted to understand, how do people actually use emoji in messaging? And the idea here is that if we can learn how they actually use emoji in messaging, we might actually be able to build new amazing experiences that enrich their lives in the future. So we analyzed 2 million anonymized conversations, 1 million from June to August of 2015, and another million from June to August of 2016. And these were across our messaging platform, so this is between businesses and consumers, who are people like you and I. And here's what we found. Emoji usage between 2015 and 2016 quadrupled. So a lot more businesses are using this to communicate and engage with their consumers. So it went from 3% in 2015 all the way up to 12% in 2016. When we looked at the top most common emoji found in 2015, they're kind of similar to the ones you might find in your personal life. So over half of them were actually facial emojis, lots of smiley and heart-eyed emojis in there. Then we find objects like the rocket ship and the house, and perhaps expected in a business setting, a lot of money-related emojis also appeared. We were really interested in understanding whether businesses mirrored the emojis used by their consumers. So in real-life communication, mirroring is really important. If we're in a conversation and we're getting along, we tend to subconsciously mirror each other's body language, voice, tone, gestures. It's a sign that we are understanding and empathizing. So in theory, if businesses were really connecting with their consumers, we might expect to see them mirror the emojis used. But here's what we found instead. Consumers, the people like you and I, we used facial emojis 30% more than businesses did. And businesses had objects as well as money-related emojis in there, neither of which appeared in the consumer list. You see, data is fundamentally about people and their behaviors, and what this analysis highlights is that consumers, people like you and I, we are highly expressive and personal and emotive even when we're talking to businesses. If you think about your local favorite business, let's say your local coffee shop, you know that moment when the owner or the staff find out your name and they remember like the coffee that you like to order and they start to ask about your day. As people, we're always seeking for ways to communicate and connect and build relationships, even with businesses. And at Intercom, we're really trying to help businesses connect and communicate with consumers in such personal ways. So whether it's about understanding how early adopters of mobile search use their phone to search and browse the web, or how smartphone users deal with the bombardment of notifications that head towards them each day, or whether how emojis are used in business messaging, data is fundamentally about people and their behaviors. And the reason why I work in and love data, the reason why I've devoted most of my career to working in data science, and the reason why I now lead amazing data science teams is because I am fascinated by people and how they behave. I am fascinated by how they interact and engage with technology, and I'm obsessed with how technology shapes our lives. And data science enables me to question and interrogate and understand those very things. It tells me things about people's attitudes and their desires, their likes, their dislikes. And once I understand those things, then I can actually improve their experiences. I can enhance the services that I build for them. I can even predict what they might do next. The first step, though, is always to understand. And then I can go on and I can inform, design, and build amazing experiences that enrich their day-to-day lives. And that's what I find inspiring, and I hope that some of you might find it inspiring too. Thank you.